Hey friends, what's up? Philip here with Points of Phillip, and I want to talk to you about this really new card that's really interesting to me. Now, this new card will let you earn points and pay down your car payment or go towards a down payment for your car, but it will also let you finance your service charges or parts charges over time. And this card is going to be the GM Rewards card, the new GM Rewards card. So this one is formerly from Capital One, formerly from Goldman Sachs, and now it's got its new home at Barclays. So let's talk about it. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you guys to like and subscribe. Doing that helps me and YouTube know that what I'm doing is helpful for you guys, which in turn helps more people to see this video. So I really do appreciate that if you do that. If you are someone who already is a subscriber, I want to say thank you so much for your support. It really means a lot to me. But now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the GM card. So what is this card? So this card, first of all, has no annual fee, but it has a heightened sign-up bonus. Now I say heightened because the sign-up bonus that was on the prior card was 15,000 points, and now this sign-up bonus is for 30,000 points, and that's after spending $1,000 in the first 90 days. Now this is redeemable 1 cent to 1 point for down payments on cars, things like that, which is interesting. Now, this can earn up to 10 points per dollar on eligible GM purchases. Now, I searched through 3 different layers of terms and conditions to figure out what an eligible GM purchase is. And they did say it was going to change, but presumably works with parts and things like that, right? Now, this kind of tranched, it's kind of broken down. You get earned 7 points per dollar just by using the card, and then you earn another 3 points per dollar by being a member of the loyalty program. So you, just by being a member of GM Rewards, you get 3 points per dollar, and then you get an additional 7 points per dollar for a grand total of 10 points per dollar. So 10% back on your GM purchases. Now, this can change. What fixes, or what essentially they're saying, the eligible GM purchases, it can change according to the terms and conditions, but generally doesn't include taxes, fees, warranty work, or body shop work. So essentially, basically, if you're going to a GM dealer body shop, that's not going to cover for these eligible GM purchases, but presumably if you take it in to get it serviced, oil changed, or get the tires rotated or something, then that presumably will. Although I don't personally have this card and I haven't tried it, but that's kind of where it seems like the terms and conditions is landing on this. Now, you also get 3x, or essentially 3% back on groceries, gas, restaurants, and travel. Now, I looked through the terms and conditions for what actually fits into this travel category. No word. It could be wide open, like the American Express Green Card or the City Strata Premier card, but we'll see. It could just be some hotels. Who knows? Now, you can, here's the interesting thing. You can share up to 300,000 GM Rewards points with family members each year. So you can transfer those points out to someone else. Now, this is where the card gets interesting for someone who might be older, because if you are someone who's trying to help your son or your daughter buy a car for college or something like that, but you don't really, you're already saving up for a college fund, for retirement, maybe your second boat, who knows. You spend on this card, you can use your points towards a down payment on some dealerships, and you can transfer those points to their account. So you can actually help give them money, maybe in a way that circumvents taxes, who knows, towards buying their own car, because you can transfer those points to someone else in your family. So that's interesting. Now, why should we care? And I know you're probably thinking about that. So this card has a few interesting superpowers. So this has 3 superpowers that are really significant if you're someone who uses a GM vehicle. Even if you think you might be interested in owning a GM vehicle, this could be helpful too. So the first superpower is it lets you buy a car with points. I'm going to say that again. This card lets you buy a car with points. Now, to be fair, the likelihood that you're going to have, $30,000 in points or $40,000 in points by the time you actually buy your next car, unlikely, right? But you can use those points as a down payment, things like that, which is really, really helpful. So that's important. Now, the second superpower, so number 2, you can get 0% APR for 9 months on any GM purchase over $499. So let's say, and because you have a GM car, it's going to be more likely your alternator blows or something like that, right? You can buy the parts on this card, you can pay the service department with this card, and you can have 0% interest for 9 months, and that's each purchase. So the old card with Goldman Sachs had a different program, which we'll get into, but 0% APR for 9 months. So if you have a service that's bigger than you anticipated and you don't want to dip into your emergency fund, this is an option, right? So you can cash flow something that's like, oh, I need, all of my tires exploded and I need to replace them all right now, right? This card can help you with that. Now, the third superpower, you can use your points to lower your monthly car payment. So you can actually, if your car loan is through GM Financial and you use this card, you can use your points to redeem towards your loan payment. And so that's going to be the third superpower. So here's the thing, these points are, if you're in the GM ecosystem and if you use a GM car and have a GM service loan, it's very easy to use these points. Now, what's the difference between just doing straight cash back and doing that? Then yeah, but being able to redeem your points directly at the dealership for a down payment is kind of cool. So here's the thing, the big caveat. You need to check to see if you're dealing with what's called a rewards dealer. Now, there's a website at gmrewardsdealers.com. That's going to be in the description below. You need to check to see if your dealer is a rewards dealer. And essentially that's, if they're not on that list, then you're not going to be able to redeem your points. So check that list possibly before you even get the card to make sure there's one in your area that you can work with, right? So that's going to be helpful. Now let's take a look at the history of this card. So the history here, this card was formerly with Capital One, but it was moved to Goldman Sachs. Now, however, Goldman Sachs lost so much money on the Apple Card that they are out of the personal finance game, or at least they're desperately trying to be. So they have sold this portfolio to Barclays, and Barclays is now going to be the ones that actually issue this card. So now I went back, I used the Wayback Machine, and according to a Wayback Machine archive of December of 2024, the old card had a sign-up bonus of 15,000 points after spending 1,000 in the first 3 months. So this sign-up bonus is significantly higher. It's doubled, right? Now, here's the thing. This multiplier, the old card, was interesting because it got 7% or 7x on GM purchases, which the new card does. However, it got 4 points per dollar on everything else, and it also had no annual fee. So I can understand why Barclays or why Goldman was wanting to get out of this card, because 4% back on every single thing back, that's the best catch-all card there is in the game, right? If you're taking a look at just a percentage back, right? The Robinhood Gold gets you 3%. The US Smartly, for those of you that still have the unbroken version, can get up to 4%, right? And you don't have to hold a couple $100,000 in a bank account, or at least you didn't. So this card in its old form was the GOAT. It is interesting that it wasn't as popular as it could have been. Now, the old card too came with an initial no APR offer for 9 months, but it didn't reset as additional purchases happened. So this card actually is better in that way. If you know that you're having to go to the GM service lot, and let's face it, you have a GM car, and so you will. Sorry, I have to get. I had a Suburban and an Impala, so I get to make these jokes. Now, but yeah, so that old card had no annual fee. So who is this new card for? So the new GM Awards card, I think it's a MasterCard, someone who is interested in or currently owns a GM branded car. So you either have a car that is GM, or you're really strongly considering it. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, your next car is going to be a GM vehicle. You're going to need parts at some point, so this can help you subsidize that cost, right? Additionally, you can actually use this card to help you save up to help someone else buy a car, right? So if I want to use this card for a year or two while I'm prepping to give Junior his own car, right? That eventually could be, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 worth of points that will go towards subsidizing their new card, and that really can help. So if you're someone who is in there, then that's important. Now, it's important to note what you're giving up by doing that. So if you're actually in the points and miles space and you're using your miles to redeem for $4,000 business class seats over the Atlantic, this might not be the card for you. But if you are someone who could benefit from an additional $300 off of a part or your next down payment on a car, then this card could be really interesting, especially even just for the sign-up bonus, because it's no annual fee. So just hold it in your pocket until your car breaks down and you have to use it. So it's definitely an interesting value assessment. At least, at very nothing else, the higher sign-on bonus is really interesting, really important. But, everything else is kind of interesting too. So if you're thinking that you could be in the GM-related space, I would definitely get this card, right? I have a Honda Accord, so probably won't be getting this card, but it's interesting, right? It's an interesting card. It does interesting things. And just the ability that you can actually use points to buy a car is just mind-blowing to me. But anyway, thanks so much for joining me, and I will see you again next time.